So going back to that day, July 18, 1996, what happened here at Channel 5 in the course of production throughout the day here?
We had thunderstorms. It was just your normal July thunderstorm activity. The Storm Prediction Center put out a thing saying we're in a moderate risk. They used the term approaching, slight, moderate, likely, I think was there. And we were in a moderate risk area, and there was a watch in effect that was put out in the afternoon. And the storms were moving across the state, so that we had a 5 o'clock news and a 6 o'clock news, 5 to 5:30, and then 6 to 7, or 6 to 6:30 with programming then. And what happened was, since there was a watch and the storm came up, we were watching it very closely. Well, just south of that storm is the Oakfield storm. And quite honestly, being in the southern part of Fond du Lac County, it was very fringish. If you had cable, maybe they picked us up and did that. But on outside the house antenna analog, you probably didn't pick up Channel 5 that good. But the Weather Service upgraded this one storm that to a tornado, and it's like, which storm are they looking at? The one I'm looking at doesn't look like that. Well, they were looking at one farther south, but still in Fond du Lac County. So there was a warning that came out for Oakfield. Now, admittedly, it was a short warning. I think under 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, that they had from the time the warning came out, the sirens blared, the weather radios went off, all the right things to happen. People had about 15 minutes. And Dave Miller was working with me, and he was in like what is, today you'd call it a chat room. And the guy from the Weather Service, Severe Weather Coordinating Meteorologist, I guess it's called, just one of our spotters said Oakfield was hit. Well, I went back to my map. It's like, where's Oakfield? I mean, I was looking Fond du Lac northward, if you will, over towards Taycheedah in one direction, maybe Ripon in the other direction. Well, this storm was south of the city of Fond du Lac, caused a lot of concern because all the sirens were being rung in Fond du Lac, and they're like, well, we see the big storm to the south, but there's nothing over us right now. So that's kind of where we were, and I was talking with some of the others in the studio. I'm fairly sure that the storm hit at around 7, I'd like to say 7:07, but because what happened was the electricity went out in Oakfield, and this one church had an electric clock, and it was like the clock stopped at 7:07. So we were in a warning. The people, we had broadcast the warning. My colleagues down in Milwaukee had broadcast the warning. And then since it did happen when people are up and moving around, I think that really gave us the benefit of not losing any lives, like, say, the Barneveld tornado back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. And what factors do you think that led to this tornado outbreak, if you will, that day? Because Dave was saying, like, the dew points weren't overwhelming.
No, they weren't. But the storms built to incredible heights, unlike I'd seen in Wisconsin and only remember from my days in Oklahoma. The thunderstorms, well, you have the bottom layer of air, the troposphere, and once you hit the stratosphere, it gets very stable. Well, these penetrated the stratosphere by 30 or 40,000 feet. How many miles is that? These storms were almost up there to the same height that the guy that just flew in the rocket ship went up. That's how tall they were. And you could go outside our studio in Green Bay and look to the south towards Fond du Lac, see just that little top. And I mean, it's not 100 miles away, but to see a storm 60 or 70 miles away is phenomenal. So it was the height of the storms that really, because with that kind of height, there again, I wasn't concerned that much with tornadoes, but with hail, just phenomenal.
Now, what was your reaction to the damage? Because you you went to bed, you were saying a little bit earlier, and you weren't you just knew it was hit.
Yeah, the only information we had, even for our 10 o'clock news, is that Oakfield has been hit by a tornado in July by 9, 10 o'clock. It's too dark to give, there's not enough light. So we really didn't know about how much damage until the next day. And we, of course, categorized tornadoes from F0 to F5. And part of the Oakfield damage was F5, where basically means the house has been blown away and the debris from the house has been blown away. There's nothing there but a foundation. And for, I want to say, 1 or 2 city blocks in Oakfield, that was the case.
Now, is there anything else you want to add from the event? What do you remember most looking back?
That's hard to say. That initially I didn't believe it was a tornado. Again, looking at the radar and that, we have tornadoes in Wisconsin, but it would be rare to have these monstrous type, and that's what this one was. So I guess you could use my name. I was a doubting Thomas, if you will. No reference to the church that I work at. But my first thought was, nah, this can't be. You know how observers are. They're out in their car. Oh, look at that. I see da 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 da. He did. And it was the next day and seeing all the damage that, yeah, you get that pit of your stomach just like you've been hit. Somebody all day long the next day I felt that. And of course, in the Bay Area, in the Fox Valley, we had rain go through, and that was it. Good summer lightning storm, but nothing that would indicate what happened there.
All right, I think that's